combination of starting to more realistically predict what expenditures are going to occur in each of the burdens. So what's the real burden in the general fund? What are we really going to spend? And then that's going to create excess cash, and you're going to have more carryover for a while. Then as soon as you get to a point where you've got adequate carryover, you've got to invoke reserves to be able to set aside money, because you want to harbor some money for building improvements, for roofs, for roads, as Chris said, fire trucks, tankers. I think you guys have a ladder truck, right? I mean, these are big ticket items with a zero cash carryover. You're telling the taxpayers we're not planning for ever buying another one. That's not true. You are, but your numbers don't reflect that because of the budgeting technique you've used. And it's, again, to repeat, this is historic. You guys inherited this. You got to uninherit it somehow. I'm happy to work with you and help you. And I know Todd and I have talked about reserves, and we're going to have to start. You can't just start creating reserves because you don't have any cash on paper. So you'll have to kind of a negative balance to create the reserves in a forward-thinking budget. In reality, you've got to kind of do it kind of simultaneously with better predicting your expenditures. So again, this is the hottest budget I've seen. I mean, this by hot, I mean it's like to the number, and that's not bad if you accept zero-based budgeting as being transparent. I don't. I think it's we know it's not going to happen, so we probably shouldn't be using it. And you're not the only one who's ever. I mean, I came from Russell. We did zero-based budgeting before. I was a fiscal. It took me all 5 years to start to move out of it. There are many townships that did zero-based budgeting because it makes budgeting real easy. You just drive everything to zero. But it's not prudent anymore. And I think people are expecting us to be more long-term thinkers than we were before. They want to know that you're saving money for the roof. They want to know you're saving money for doors and windows. So I'd like to propose that you work with us and start to figure out how to get out of that. Which, and again, it's going to take us time. You're going to have to hear from Chris for a number of years before he concedes it's okay. But that's good because he's driving the equation. Jim, that one, thanks for the write-up.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. This is excellent. Really well done. So, yeah, I mean, part of the problem is you've got that goofy fire contract that nobody else really has. It's so those numbers are just weird.
Well, that's how he can live with zero carryover because he's just paying, but still has to have equipment.
Yes. So, but again, I think I didn't really have any big issues. So,
It's already gone. Oh, it's gone.
Yeah.
It's your
I don't know.
yours.
Yeah.
Did it
So
last
moved.
time.
Second.
Yes.
Yes.
And if you have anybody who was damaged in the storm, they can file for reduction of value for 1 year. They can get that online too. It's a 50% reduction of the improvement. It will help them for a year. If there's more than 1 year, they have to come before the DOR. This is yours for your temporaries, and then you'll have the closure.
I did a weird calculation on the amount of cash per house in the county. You have $363 per house of cash, which is the lowest in the county by 40%. I'm not sure what that tells me, but there are other communities that have. Russell has $2,800 in cash per house. Newburgh's $1,500. I have 2,100 homes in months. That's like an 8-year-old calculation.
Yeah, it should be like 29, but go ahead.
I have you at $393. That is extremely low. I like it, but not factorially. So just an observation.
it's a new chart. I was unaware of this.
It's going to be an urban legend. what do we call that one? Hitchcock tube chart?
Oh, did you make copies for us? You just spraying it on us at noon?
Now you're giving us the chart?
Make a motion to adjourn at 12:09.
Second.
Yes.
Yes. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Take care.
Hey, Frank, when they sign, you gotta put it here, okay?
Got dressed up for a reason.
Ms. Walden,
Mr. Hitchcock,
nice to see you.
thank you.
Good afternoon.
You go
Good
for a ride?
afternoon.
Supposed to be a nice day.
Possibly. It's possible.
Chris, your chart doesn't bode well for Russell. Your new chart.
Well, they get another prize. We'll talk about that later.
Good afternoon. Hello.
Glad you're here.
I don't know.
Are we spared oh, we have to go ahead and read the numbers.
Yeah.
Russell Township submitted their 2025 budget with an estimated beginning balance in their general fund of $621,745.13, requesting revenue in the amount of $1,501,341. The Budget Commission will consider $1,501,860. Estimated expenses of $1,672,8358. Ending cash balance of $453,321.55. Road and Bridge, beginning balance of $540,515.34, requesting revenue in the amount of $1,747,186, which will be considered. Estimated expenses of $1,916,163.94, ending balance of $371,537.40. Fire Fund, beginning cash balance of $452,055.64, requesting revenue in the amount of $1,332,892, which will be considered. Estimated expenses of $1,384,470, ending balance of $400,477.64. Police Fund, beginning balance of $1,125,038.66, requesting revenue in the amount of $2,061,422, which will be considered. Estimated expenses of $2,701,418.82, ending balance of $485,041.84. They do have 9 reserve funds, and total millage for 24-25 is 3 inside general, 7.05 outside road, 6.8 outside fire, 9.45 outside police, for a total of 26.3 mils. And there is no levies on the ballot.
Are we spared a PowerPoint or?
I have one, but mine was longer and more meandering than what Chuck does, so it's not necessary to even bring it up. I didn't recognize when I saw how you guys do this process that it was not, mine was,
Now I kind of want to see your
it's just,
PowerPoint.
it's like 13 bullet points.
Oh, boy.
Well, I apologize. I went through everything. Being a non-financial guy like you two gentlemen, and I wanted to talk about the budget ad, just the submission, all of that in sort of proper order, especially going to the transfers in and out, just the lineup of all that. Do I continue to go or?
Yeah, you're on a roll.
I'm on a roll. Okay. I will say,
Kind of regretting it.
yeah, slightly different approach than the other. Your general fund, hitting at 32% there is, I don't want to say a masterclass in how to do that. But I think that the strategic use of your reserve fund, which Tammy noted, you have 9, and you have multiples for the same categories, is, I think, an excellent way to budget. I think that if you can tailor your general fund to where your carryover is in that 32% range, especially with the size budget that your township has, that is almost a perfect sweet spot to me. I was a little nervous by the combined road and bridge fund being a 25% carryover. As you know, that's sort of my background experience with 10 years at the engineer's office, but knowing that you have the reserve funds, that you have them broken down for various categories within the roads and bridge, that makes me feel very good, especially knowing the large amount of roads that Russell Township has, all improved. You have wide roads, you have, you have the sort of an optimal side of that, just knowing that the cost of that, I mean, liquid AC could fluctuate dramatically. And with the reserve funds, you have the ability to cover that. So that's a really good look. Fire and ambulance, police, just all the carryovers are tight. I think that's all very good. My questions are less in that because of the strategic use of the reserve funds and how well those are done. I have some questions, and this is just my lack of experience with the Russell budget and how I haven't participated in this in the past, I think. But if we go right off the bat to, I think it's footnote number 7. So these are new things to me, and this may be outside the realm of my responsibility here. But you have a category under town halls, memorial buildings and grounds, salaries 1000-120-190-0000 other salaries. In 2023 and 2022, you had 0. This year you have $5,900. You have projections in 2025 of an expenditure of $25,000. I think I'm just looking for an explanation of that, again, based on, I think, my lack of historical understanding of Russell's budget.
Well, in our budget hearings, the board asked for 25,000 to be put into salaries for a part-time event coordinator.
I apologize. I
for
think I'm
our
asking the
building.
wrong person then.
Yeah.
So, Ms. Port, just what's the notion behind that? I'm just curious as to the $25,000. It just looks like it's
Oh,
something that
yeah,
wasn't contemplated.
because we have this project, the $1 million+ project. Thank you, Mr. Hitchcock, for saying last year that this building would cost $1 million, and guess what? It's more than $1 million. So I appreciate your being on target with what we needed to get that project done. However, it's still gonna need an event coordinator for managing events, which we don't currently have. So this is gonna be something that we're gonna have to add to our payroll benefits and stuff.
So it's a legislative decision, and I don't have a problem with that. To me, it feels a little bit like you're sort of growing government because you've built a building there. If that's your prerogative to do, this is just a need-based thing. I just wonder if there's a way to spend less money and have somebody internally be responsible for that. I don't know. I don't understand.
Well, I mean, we have to see, first of all, it's new to us.
It is.
And secondly, so we don't know what the demand is gonna be, so it's kind of hard to, what I'm thinking is we limp along for the remainder of the fall into winter to see what the
Okay.
interest is. And then when our 2025 budget comes and we're gonna have an idea, we may just substitute having somebody else internally handle this.
That seems like a good idea.
And then if we see the volume increasing or the hours necessary for being available for whatever party is renting it or whatever, and it consumes more hours, then that could translate into a part-time position. But again, it's a variable that we don't have a handle on.
I understand, and I appreciate the clarification. On some level, I've been very aware of that project. I think it's a good project. Really glad the building is where it's at. I'm glad at some of the choices that the township has made to build a good building, to put in the necessary technology. That's been sort of my end of it, but something
Right.
that the residents will be able to use. I
But
think
we
that's
really appreciate that.
As a fiscal officer, I did note for the board, our budget for 2025 includes only $7,500 in rental revenue from that. Now, again, we don't know how popular that would be, but my hope would be that whatever costs we incur for a building coordinator is offset by the rental.
And based on those numbers, obviously, it would only be a small portion of that. That's why I just wonder if there's a way to do that with somebody who's already there. But again, that's a legislative decision. That's not an issue of need in terms of what I think the Budget Commission's responsibility is. Just something that I want to point out because, like I said, I don't have the historical or institutional knowledge of Russell's budget. So then sort of moving on. And again, I like the strategic use of the reserves. My only concern is that Russell has a lot of money coming in. And it's not just in the standard budgeting, and that's sort of my concern. So when I look at it, I'm aware of Senator O'Brien's grant, as was Hampden Township. I don't recall the amount of money that was, but I think it's $300,000 or $400,000. I think Hampden maybe getting something
Well,
similar.
It's 370,000. However, we submitted our budget before this House bill money was on the table.
Sure.
So you're looking at it from a lens of
I understand.
after the fact.
I'm looking at it as this is a windfall more for us.
Absolutely.
If it has to be earmarked for our community room, then again, we could use that part for whatever
I think that's fantastic.
things that we
Yep.
need to make this a go for our community. And on the other hand, if there's money that we can leverage, and then I see you even have Laurel School, which again is a work in progress.
And I'm not
That
aware
isn't,
of the extent of that. I've only
yeah,
heard
that's,
through the auditor's office that there are issues with that and that there's potential money there. So if there could be an explanation of that, that would be helpful.
but that's,
I'd rather we not
after,
talk about
that's
that.
something we
Okay.
can't talk really about.
The potential is that you have extra money coming in.
So I'm saying that what we did was we need to backfill our reserves.
Okay.
So I would work with the fiscal officer for sure to make sure, because we took out money. So we had that down payment, so to speak, for the capital project to make sure we could make a bid and honor that bid for the community building.
Absolutely.
But again, shoring up what we need in a cash reserve to make sure that we, just like you said, with the other community ahead of us, was, making sure that we have money that's earmarked for larger purchases that are necessary for those departments.
Absolutely. And again, I also have background as a township trustee, so I know that at this point we have to switch over to the fiscal officer because you're the one who moves the money around. What are your recommendations for these two potential windfalls? And I think you're also looking at cybersecurity grant, which could be additional money. So you potentially have a windfall of at least 3 different pots here. I guess what are the recommendations you have for the board?
Well, what I would recommend to the board, and not knowing what the total, amounts might be, take a third of it and return to the taxpayers. As
That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
we've
Inside
we've
knowledge
talked about
windfall.
that,
last year we did 244,000.
right?
We may be in a position to do that again. I would take a third, as Trustee Port has indicated, to reestablish a reserve fund for our general fund,
That's fantastic.
which we had to cash out for the building. And
Which, because you use that extremely wisely, by the way, which is what some of these other townships should be following suit in terms of the
Yeah.
building.
Yeah. And then the last third to put toward completing our community meeting building and, making sure that we have adequately funded things that will reduce our operating costs for that building going forward. And one of the things that Trustee Port and I have already talked about is putting in the heated sidewalks.
That's an excellent idea.
Right.
Which,
That's something you'll
That's gonna be brought up tomorrow.
you'll cut down on labor in the future for
Yes.
shoveling. You'll cut down on workers' compensation
Right,
claims
yeah.
for the back injury for shoveling.
yeah.
If that all adds up, that's a
Yeah.
great investment. That's a
Yeah.
good call on your part.
Yeah,
Okay, so then the only other thing you touched on, and then I'll stop doing all the talking here, is what I believe it was Clary or somebody else had referenced, but it was the inside millage situation in terms of giving back to the community. Last year, you did roughly $250,000. Are you looking at that again this year?
I would certainly
I
recommend.
would look at it too, because if we have that money, I'd rather continue on that pathway and look at alleviating some of that overage, because again, it's unvoted money.
Yep.
And why should we have it?
Good for you. That's a good mindset. That has not been, I think, everybody's mindset in the county. So that's a good one. So good for you. I think those were all of the questions that I had. Thank you for the candor. And again, the use of the reserve funds, fantastic.
You done?
I am, sir.
Karen, let's talk about the 2023 actual ending cash balance of $2.2 million. I think that's before you did a reserve fund adjustment.
Well, I, with all due respect, I took a look at your numbers. That includes our $1.25 million of encumbrances for the building. So yes, that I agree that is the ending balance, but $1.2 million of that is encumbered.
For the
Was
building.
encumbered for the building. So it was actually about 964,000
Okay, that's good.
unencumbered.
Road and Bridge for this year's estimate ending cash balance at $371,000. That's only 19% of what you anticipate to spend. it would be very nice if that were closer to 25%.
Hmm.
Because I don't want you to get you caught where you're short and you don't have dough to pay. Typically, your budgets are exemplary. 19% is, in my world, yellow, not red,
Yeah,
but I want to get it to 25.
well, and that, you're just looking at the road and bridge fund. We also have gas tax, MVO, and permissive tax. So we've got a lot of pockets, and I tend to use those first,
Okay,
rather than
Okay.
these. And the other thing is, as you know, we have to, when we do a paving project, we appropriate for 110% of the cost of the project.
Yes.
And if it comes in not requiring that, then that ends up as unencumbered.
the special road district income, is that for any particular project these days?
That's just one they're
That,
getting rid
that's the
of.
one that she phased out.
Yeah.
It's gone?
Yes, that's one,
What a lovely thing.
yes.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thought it was excellent. Your numbers are more accurate than pretty, you're in the top 10%, I think, of from your budgeting standpoint. The only time you get sideways, I think, is when the trustees don't spend what they told you they thought they were gonna spend. And
That
then
only took 3 years.
yeah. But
We
so,
did it.
Yeah.
I remember.
yeah,
It was coming home.
kicking
it
and
did.
screaming, but,
I didn't want to get flogged.
but yeah, I think, again, I think on your end, you're doing everything you need to do, so I thought it was very, very well done. It's good.
Thank you.
So, whose turn?
Thank you, Karen.
Where is it? Which stuff? Mine? Okay, I move to approve.
Second,
Yes,
aye.
okay. Good luck with the heated sidewalk. Seems like you could definitely afford it.
It's great.
That's a nice to have, but you have nice to have money. The county did that. They add that to their office building. And
As far as I'm concerned, it was a no-brainer.
over time, it probably makes financial sense.
Well, I think that when we were looking at things originally, you're looking at a projected cost and like you said, $1 million. We only had 750 or so, and then we're looking at what we needed to go and raise to make sure that we were gonna be able to have a bid in the 110%. And so the original did have heated sidewalks, but then we started saying, well, is this necessary, like what things don't we need? A cupola on the top of the building or whatever. And so, but if we're able to do that, that's
Well, as part of the group that
Good.
scoped those out for the new engineer's office in 2014, it's been 10 years. They've had no issues with those and nobody has to shuffle them. It's a great investment.
right.
Good for you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
I move that we stand in recess until 1:15 PM.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Aye. Okay, we
Thank
are
you.
in recess.